So just a little bit of background. I met Tyler roughly 3 years ago, 3 or 4 now. It's been a hot minute, believe it or not.
Wow. Right
yeah.
before COVID. I remember it was before COVID.
It was before COVID. Crazy. Mm-hmm. And at that time, my shoulders were really, really screwed up. Even they're more than they are now. And I was referred to Tyler. And so I went and checked him out. And he was super, super smart. And unlike most physical therapists who say, hey, I'm going to do these things to you, come back and see me in a couple of days, I'm going to do those same things to you. He was much more about educating you, on what to do and how to do it and to fix it. Okay. Which was mind blowing. And it really, and what was cool is he could say, hey, I probably can get you where you need to be in 8 sessions. I can probably get you where you need to be in 20 sessions versus you just need to keep seeing me and paying me until ad infinitum, which I thought was super, super interesting. Plus, what really sealed the deal with me with Tyler is my dad literally broke his hip, like the socket. And my dad came back. This happened in Arizona. He came back. He went to work. He's a detention officer. He had to use a cane. He could barely walk in and out. And I was like, Dad, you need to go see Tyler. My dad is super cheap. He doesn't want to spend money on stuff. I was like, here's the thing, Tyler, and things may have changed. So Tyler, you don't have to hold me to this. We'll do a free at the time, did a free diagnostic session to see, 1, if he can't even help you, and 2, if you want his help. I was like, Dad, let's go see it. It's free. My dad saw him on that free session. That night he went into work and he walked in and out with pain-free without a cane. That blew my mind. And then my dad happily paid Tyler, which was good for both parties. And now he's pain-free. So all the clients, Noah, myself, and Dylan have sent to Tyler, literally call us and thank us. So he really is a genius. No joke. So anyway, Tyler, go ahead and tell them a little about yourself, and then we can jump into Q&A.
I don't know if you heard me say this or if my mic was off, but if I could just carry you around in my pocket anytime I need a little bit of,
self-confidence,
need to feel better about myself. Yeah, I just pull out my little Kellen, and yeah, thank you. You pretty much said it. I'm very investigative in how I approach things. That may sound a little bit obvious, but I think that if I can spend more time diagnosing you, I can spend less time treating you. And I'm chronically trying to put myself out of business as far as you're concerned. Good news for me business wise is there's always going to be hurt people, so I don't actually have to worry about going out of business. But if I can get you better in a more efficient amount of time by really diving deep at the root cause of most issues, then that's what I'm going to do. Again, sounds kind of obvious to say that you want to find the root cause, but if you were to travel around and see many of the different options available to people who are in pain, it's very heavily treatment based, and you can go up or down the chain of command in medicine, as it were. A lot of it is like, okay, well, I have this pain. I got this to spend about 15 minutes with a specialist and they're already ready for a treatment. It's like, I always say this to people: if you had car trouble and you went to your mechanic and you described the issue to your mechanic, you're like, yeah, I've just got, the engine lights on, I got these couple of lights on, it's making this weird noise. Here, let me tell you what the noise sounds like. And the mechanic listens to you and goes, okay, so that procedure for your car is going to be $750. And here's what it is. We'll have it ready for you the next day, without looking at your car. You'd be like, okay, but can you at least run it?
I never thought about it like that. You're right though.
Yeah, it's just and listen, before anybody with medical family member come after me about this, the way that it is set up for them to see patients, every 15 minutes if they're lucky, and just over and over again to spend 30 minutes on notes for that one person, it's ridiculous. So I do what I do the way that I do it so that I can take the time that's necessary to actually get to the root of the issue. And it's usually a lot more efficient when we're doing it that way. Simple doesn't mean easy. Not everybody is your dad. Certainly don't walk out of there same day with no pain, but it's amazing what you can do when you just dig a little bit at their root cause, because you can come across some revelations that may take somebody else 6 to 12 weeks. So yeah, I think I've probably done enough talking here. But
so where did you get your doctorate from? Go ahead. Where'd you get your doctorate at? UNC?
Oh yeah, I went to school. I went to UNC Chapel Hill for all 7 years of school. So I got my undergrad and my doctorate of physical therapy there.
And then what's
Countless
your newest
continuing
certification, Dr. McGill? Talk about that. And then
Yep.
super unique, super niche, super valuable.
Yes. So you might have to cut me off because I could talk about Dr. Stu for days. But essentially what it is it's I'm certified by Dr. Stuart McGill in something called the McGill method. It's run by a company called BackFit Pro, but really it's Stuart McGill and a couple of staff members. And essentially what it is, it's an assessment system for the lower back. So if you've ever dealt with lower back issues, the MC sound makes people think Mackenzie. It's not that, and I'm not throwing shade in Mackenzie's direction. It's just different when people hear that sound. So what it is, it's a very robust way to assess the body. So right off the bat, it's 3 hours long. So I take somebody through, basically within that 3 hours, we go over an extensive history of what's been going on. And people don't come to me with back issues on their first attempt. I wish, I wish that would happen more often, but people usually go through quite a few layers of failures or only half successes before they get to me. So they've usually tried physical therapy a couple of times and it didn't work. Chiropractors, massage, acupuncturists, doctors wanted to put needles in them, and surgery sometimes either didn't go well or they're trying to avoid surgery. So the people that get to me have generally fairly complex cases. So that's the need for extensive history taking. I already mentioned that 15 minutes is hardly enough time to actually spend going over somebody's case, much less actually diagnose them and start treating the issue. So we'll do that as long as we need to. Usually takes 30, 45 minutes for me to get the whole thing. Then we go into testing of different positions, postures, loads, whatever it might be that provokes your pain, so that I can start to figure out what exactly is the root of the root cause. And then from there, I start to teach you how to reverse engineer that out of your body. So, if you're in pain, what positions to get into to get out of pain immediately. That natural pain pill, we call them positions of respite. How to move during the day to avoid picking the proverbial scab over and over again. If there's exercises involved in helping make a more robust back, that's great. But I tell people all the time, I usually have people, I'd say about half the people that show up walk away with no exercises whatsoever, because it's so important to wind that pain down first. And I can talk, this is where I'll get a little bit preachy, but we can, this will come up with more things, so I can stop in a second. But people that see me a lot will hear me use the phrase pick the scab. And it's just because the best metaphor I know to explain, I see some smiles, to explain, sorry, to explain what inflammation is doing in your body. So, if there's pain, generally there's inflammation. It means tissue's irritated. So, you can think of that as picking a scab. If all I'm doing is sitting there picking a scab day after day after day, we can do all kinds of things to that scab treatment wise, but nothing's going to make it actually heal until we take our finger off of it. So again, seemingly obvious advice, and that doesn't necessarily mean stop doing everything in life, but it means we need to find the thing that feels good and ride that wave in. And the way that we ride that wave in is find, okay, so here's how you're moving incorrectly. Here's how we should maybe work on this. If you need to get, your baby out of a crib, why don't we try this instead of this? That sort of thing. And then, like I said, anything else that we need to go over exercise wise is involved in that as well. So long-winded answer, but Dr. McGill is amazing. He's got, I don't want to misquote his stats here, but he's got at least 35 years plus of work in the lab and in the clinic with this stuff. Kellen obviously knows who he is. Most people in the training community or in physical therapy know who he is. He is considered widely, not just by me, as the best source for conservative back pain care. Conservative meaning no surgery, injections, etc. And it's been an absolute honor to be a part of that and to be certified under him and get to see more and more complex cases, get to consult with him on certain things. So it's been really cool for me, both professionally and to see the effect that it has on people's lives. And people travel from all over. Shameless plug. I mean, I've had people from Virginia, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, obviously North Carolina. I think that's about it for now, but all over the place, seeking out this style of assessment that they used to have to fly to Canada for. So I'll shut up now.
But it is super, super awesome. Like there's places that if you don't know who McGill is, they will not hire you as a trainer. So like he is that renowned. It is really good. But anyway, So that being said, so Jan was the first one here. So Jan, go ahead and kind of tell Tyler, I believe it was about your husband or whomever it was, the issues, and then we'll kind of we'll go from there. Cool?
Sure. Thanks. My husband's had knee pain for several years. We don't know what the cause of it is. I don't know. He doesn't know if it's osteoarthritis, if it's just bone on bone. Since we've been with Just You Fitness, he has lost 20 pounds and it's getting better. And he's got about 20 more pounds to go. And he's been chronically 25 pounds overweight for many years. I don't know if that's the cause of it. I'm sure that getting the weight off will help. My question is, if it doesn't clear up all the way once he loses all his weight, when do you suggest that he go search for a specialist to find out if there's something else that can be done?
Yeah. Go ahead, Kellen.
I would look at like if it's something he's always struggled with, I would look into it now, just to be completely honest. Because it could just be a weight issue, it just could be just a mechanical issue, which Tyler can address. But like if in his using his analogy, the scab, it might be something unrelated to the weight, and it's just whatever he's habitually doing, or maybe the way, who knows what it is, but he could habitually just be making it worse from ongoing thing. It could be more than just the weight, I guess is what I want to say. So I would go get that checked out. But anyway, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's not to sound too self-serving here, but it's better if you're in pain, if there's so let me back up for a second. And this is true of the McGill stuff, but it's really true of anybody. And I think most people could vouch for this. All paths to me lead with a phone call. And part of it is because selfishly, I want to make sure that I can actually do something for you so that this isn't just a wasted trip for everybody and that you're not coming in here. My point of that is when I'm on the phone with people, I'm looking very specifically for you to prove that there's a mechanical cause to your pain, meaning certain positions, certain movements, certain loads, whatever it might be, make the pain better or worse. So for example, with the knee, when I squat either body weight or a kettlebell, something like that, my pain gets worse. But when I go from sit to stand, it actually feels okay. When I sit in this position, it feels better. When I lay down, it feels worse. So those kind of questions are what I would dig into with him, just so I could see, okay, is this something that changes in any way with things that I can change? And from there, it's just a matter of me starting to dive into what all that mechanism is. Do I think the weight's involved? I'll speak on that really quickly. And Kellen actually might have more experience with this than I do, because I know, Kellen, correct me if I'm wrong, but you do quite a bit of help with people losing weight. So you see the effects of that a lot more than I probably do. But while losing weight can absolutely take pressure off of your joints, I would argue that if you are a certain weight, outside of ridiculous numbers, and I can give you a ballpark for what that is, but you're saying 25 pounds overweight, which I would not consider ridiculous. I don't think that your body just wakes up one day and goes, you know what, this hurts me now. Your body is an amazingly adaptive thing that you really don't find a whole lot of that's man-made. Obviously, you can't find anything that's man-made, but if you provide your body with the environment to heal, it will do so. So by losing weight, you're essentially taking load off the joints. Okay, cool. But what else might be at play here that could be picking the proverbial scab? I'll just stick with the analogy. Because if there are other factors that could speed this up, then he's wasting time. I mean, not wasting time losing weight, but he could be getting better faster if that's the case.
Yes. Exactly.
And that's why I do again, I'm not selling it to you. You can obviously contact me if you need me, but I'm just giving you an example of why I do it this way. That's why I do the free session, so that I can sit you down, pick it apart, and then go, okay, so here's how I can help you. Here's roughly how long I usually see that this takes to get over, give or take life getting in our way and a million other things.
Because Jan, how old is your husband?
57.
57. And how long has his knee been bugging him for?
At least 10 years.
Yeah.
So it's a long time. And I mean, I'm sure, obviously I'm not diagnosing him.
It's not chronically painful, but he notices it.
So it comes and goes, or like
I think it's always there every day. It's just some days are more painful than others. And it probably depends on how active he is at his job, because he's chronically on his feet all day, walking
What's
up
he
and
do?
down. Well, we own our own business, but he makes circuit boards. And so he's constantly going up and down a line of machines for 8-10 hours a day.
Is it the same leg? I assume.
Yes.
Which leg is it?
It's left, I believe.
And like what part of the knee? The top, the bottom, the middle?
I do not know.
All right. That makes it a little bit harder, but I would doubt, if it's been bugging him for 10 years, that it's solely at, like, losing the weight is going to help relieve it. There's going to be less load, but I highly doubt that is necessarily the cause, and it's probably not going to be the thing that ultimately brings relief to him. What would be, like, just based on, I know this is kind of a shot in the dark, Tyler, but based on what you know and your experience, like what are your assumptions? If you were to throw
10
10
years is a long time. So he's been moving on in a way that bothers it
for a long time.
For a long time. So we have to, and this is something that I really love coordinating with Kellen's team over. Whenever I say this to everybody that comes in from Just You Fitness, you guys have such a phenomenal base to where it just really doesn't take me any time to get you. Like, all I have to do is text or send in an email to Noah or Dylan, like, hey, this type of loading, like squatting hurts, so please do deadlifts for a little bit. Like, do this different style of load, keep them moving, because that clearly I've found in my assessment that this hurts, this doesn't hurt. So keep doing the thing that doesn't hurt. Let me work on this for a little bit and wean this down, so to speak, to whatever level that we can, and then go from there. Because I mean, to Kellen's point, it's unless I don't want to say that he's way too young for severe degeneration, but he's pretty young for severe degeneration. And when I say severely overweight, I'm not necessarily talking double digits. I'm usually saying like 200-300 pounds overweight is when I start to go, okay, yeah, that's wearing on your knees quite a bit. But before then, I've seen people, and again, this is a back case, but I've seen people who, I think the heaviest was, 450. And he, I'm sure his weight was not helping at all, but we took his back pain away. And he had been having doctors tell him for years that it was because of his weight. And I think sometimes that diagnosis is a little bit of a, like, well, you look overweight, so that's why, because I didn't have time to take a look and see what's going on with you. So my point is to not pat myself on the back and say, well, look how awesome I am, I got this big guy out of weight. I'm just saying that it's not always that simple. And that's where this in-depth assessment that Kellen talked up so much comes in, is just, I don't know until I look at it specifically. But there are very few things that I will turn away. If you can show me that different, and I hate to be a broken record here, so cut me off at any point, but anytime you show to me that different positions, different movements, different postures, different loads, so bending the knee, straightening the knee, wherever it is, if you can show me that changes his pain, not just makes it better, where it just like changes it all, then I immediately see that as my window. And I can usually figure out from there, as far as I'm concerned, what that means biomechanically, and then teach you, or him in that case, here's the things to avoid so that we're not picking the scab for the time being. Here's a couple of things that we can do, if strength is involved, if we need to really, I usually say stabilize. If you want the in-depth nerdy explanation on these, I can give it, but whatever we need to do, I'll do in the meantime while you're not picking scab, is essentially what I'm getting at here.
Mhm. And so, if you were to throw a dart and guess what the pain issue is, and I know this is a big guess. I care about this. How about this? Because I know you hate doing that. How about this? What are the top 3 things you see with knees with someone who's like 57-ish?
Okay. I'm going to answer that a little differently than you probably want me to, but bear with me. So the knee is, the knee, there's a concept, or I don't know what to call it, but there's something called regional interdependence that helps me assess the body. And you can look it up on your end if you really want to learn more about it. But essentially what it means is our body alternates from a mobile joint to a stable joint, all the way up. You really think about it. Let's say the foot and ankle, super mobile, knee, kind of just back and forth, like a little bit of rotation, but mostly just back and forth. And then the hip, again, super mobile, lower back, not supposed to move a whole lot, upper back, supposed to move a ton, and on and on and on it goes. I say that to say that the knee is very rarely the actual source of the problem. I almost never find, unless somebody has been, in some kind of contact injury, they have severe degeneration, which is possible. At 57, that would surprise me quite a bit, but it's possible, I suppose. But unless I see one of those 2 things, I don't think I'm forgetting anything. It's usually coming from the hip or the ankle in terms of, can those joints move enough? And if they can you control that movement? And the problem is you're usually not going to feel like a control problem doesn't always feel like a lack of balance. A control problem at the hip could feel like tight hamstrings. Everybody thinks they have tight hamstrings. And I would say that's false for roughly, I don't know, 60, 70% of the population coming in and telling me they have tight hamstrings. It's usually not true. Your body will squash mobility as means to protect a joint or protect something from getting misaligned is a bad way to describe this, but your body is very protective of the rest of it. So if it's feeling knee pain, so I tore my meniscus. I can be a decent example of this. I tore my meniscus a while ago, years, and slowly over time, just because I'm a physical therapist, I'm constantly testing different moves out. I noticed in myself that my right hip, which is the side that I tore my meniscus on, was getting just a little bit tighter in external rotation. And so I kind of, this is how I treat my body when I'm in pain. I'm just like, oh, let me play around in this. Let me see what this is like, and try to feel through this. I kind of monitored it over time, and it just kept getting tighter unless I paid attention to it and skillfully went after, okay, here's how I open it up. Now let me do these things to make sure it stays that way. To this day, because of that, I have to make sure that I'm warming up my hip. So there's a decent example of how the knee can cause some of those issues, but for the majority of the cases, it's for one reason or another, you lose hip range of motion, or you can't control the hip, or you lose ankle range of motion. That one is frankly the most common, where you can't control the ankle, and then all of a sudden your knee's the one taking all the force that now your body's not able to equally distribute. So Kellen, to answer your question, when I say I think it's a balance issue, I think it's a coordination issue of many of those faults. And I'll say this about musculoskeletal pain. 9 times out of 10, I guess, unless there's been a surgery or like an impact injury, it's because of a fault in your movement. So this is what I deal with lower backs all day, every day. There's something that is going wrong movement-wise that's picking your scab. So even if you were to go get an MRI, it says you have a bulging disc. This has totally ruined how I approach medicine, by the way, because my son, never mind. It's totally ruined how I look at it, because I always want to know more than what you're giving me. So if you go and get an MRI and it says you have a bulging disc, my first question is why? And people usually can't answer it. They're like, well, because the disc is bulging and it's, I don't know, it's I round and when I compress and I round, I guess. I don't, if you don't have an answer for that, if you can replace a disc, you can, do all kinds of surgeries and injections, but something movement wise is still causing that disc to bulge. And not all discs bulge for the same reason, which is why it takes me 3 hours to pick apart what's going on with somebody, even if they have an MRI showing me what the problem is. So with the knee, that's still very much true. There's probably for 10 years, it sounds like there's been a slight movement, let's call it inefficiency, that's been allowing this thing to keep driving. And that's when people, you'll still go in and get the normal stuff with that. Hey, I have arthritis. Okay, you probably do, but how did it get that way? So that even if we have to do something surgical, or if we have to take a shot, which, by the way, I'm not disparaging any of these things. They all obviously exist for a great reason. Selectively, I'd like to use them a little bit more selectively, but they all exist for a good reason. So if we need it, fine. But what are we doing on the back end of that to make sure that it doesn't just happen to that replaced part? Because all it, if we want to use the scab example, what if we take a skin graft off my butt cheek and put it right here over the scab? But I'm still doing this. It's gonna open back up eventually. I'm still doing the thing. So I know I'm not giving you a specific answer. This is my political way of getting out of saying specifically. I honestly don't know. Jan, I hope this is helpful, by the way.
It is. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Am I answering your question? Do you want me to? I mean, we go into specifics on them, but I don't want to drag you through all that if that's not what you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to take up everybody's time. I'm sure there are other people who might have questions, but I appreciate all the information, and I'm going to relay it to Chris and let him know.
Okay.
All right. I might circle back too. All right. So
yeah, that's fine.
Who is second? Was it? I think it was Keegan, I believe. Keegan, you got any questions or aches and pains?
Yes, my knee, actually. So all that information was wonderful. I am only going to be 39 this summer, and every one of my dad's side of the family's had knee surgery. I do not want to do that. So I don't know if it's like genetic or goes through, but like whatever they're doing wrong, I don't want to do. And I'm with you on like traditional medicine. Like I feel that I would just go get an MRI. They'd want to do shots. They'd want to do this physical therapy. And I've been down that road, and it hasn't really been, I don't know, that help, like with other joints, like they're better now, but I feel like it's just because of what I have been doing. And I definitely want to set up a consultation with you, because I know that my hips are different. The way that like if I put my feet out straight, like one goes straight, one turns, like I know that my body is a little wonky. And I think like having like that longer consultation to kind of figure out why it sits certain ways would be great. Yeah, I would love to do that and just learn more about my bodies, because everyone's different. Just so that I don't have, like, I went hiking this weekend and did like 3 hours, but my knee's hurting. I'm like, I'm way too young to be going up a mountain, walking on steps for 3, and just to be coming down and it's swollen and it just doesn't feel good the next day. So I don't want it to get worse. It's been slowly getting better. That's why I haven't gone to the doctor. But with working out and with stretching and yoga, it's helping, but it's not going away.
Okay. Yeah. It's, did somebody suggest you get surgery?
No. Just like a lot of people in my family have.
Entirely too young for that.
Yeah.
So I can make a mention of this just makes me think of a fairly common diagnosis that gets thrown around a bit next to what I was talking about. Like people that have a patellar tracking issue, and I'll see that in referrals. I don't really get doctor referrals, so I don't have to deal with this. Well, I mean, like in the traditional sense, I mean, like nobody's sending me a form of supposed diagnoses, but people get told a lot that they have a patellar tracking dysfunction. I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but I can refer you back to my previous statement about how if maybe your ankle is not as mobile as it should be. So let's, for example, and I don't know if this is happening with you or not, but I need a certain amount of bend in my ankle dorsiflexion this way to clear through every single step, especially downhill. I need even more downhill. Well, if I don't have that, then what's going on? Well, my foot's probably turning to the outside. It might be, everybody knows and loves to say pronating, but it might be doing all these things. I would, without hurting yourself, I would have everybody, stand up just so that they could see, whoop. My son turned 1 the other day, so my house is a mess. I apologize. So I'm just going to roll my ankle and everybody take my word for it. Can we all appreciate how much my knee and my hip and probably my back are taking? So I've told people before that I can, without, being unscientific about it, I can draw a pretty straight line from a big toe fusion straight up to neck pain. All I have to do is get it to your spine and it'll work its way up. And what I just showed you right there, if I can't clear that ankle, then I'm going to have problems somewhere up or down that chain. So I think that's where a lot of people get that patellar tracking diagnosis, if you will, or any kind of arthritic wearing down of the knee. It's just not that simple. So yeah, not to go over the point. It's if you want to set something up, we can absolutely do that, Kellen. I don't know how you want to handle the end of this.
I have no
give my
opinion, guys.
information or something. Okay, cool.
But yeah, I do really appreciate this.
Do you have any questions broadly? What's up, Kellen?
I'll put your contact info in the chat.
I was gonna say it's my number. It's people are surprised when I pick
Yeah,
up.
no. That's why
You don't have
cool.
a secretary? No. I don't want to deal with that.
Are you located in Winston?
It's really easy to text me.
Okay.
Yep. I just moved over to out the back of a CrossFit gym in Washington Park. So I've got all my contact info and everything, location and whatnot listed. Even got a video on how to get there.
Okay.
Or what to expect when you get there. Because I like just moved within a couple. I don't have any signage up or anything like that. People think they're showing up for a CrossFit class.
Which would be fun, but I've already got a good gym.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm certainly not. I would never try to pull you guys away from Kellen, and I mean that. Even if Kellen wasn't here, he seriously sends me some of the most put together. Even though they're coming to me for pain, I can't stress how often I'm like expecting to see some terrible squat out of somebody if I forget that they're coming from Just You Fitness and they just rip off this perfect form, do all the things that I like to see, movement wise. Everybody is so well put together that I just don't. I certainly don't take my foot off the gas. I probably could if I wanted to, just because everybody's doing so well. It's usually just one tiny little thing, and then you're backing at them. And I've been able to communicate to Noah and Dylan pretty effectively just simple stuff, what needs to be done, and they're so good at their jobs that they know immediately. They're like, okay, done. Here's the new thing. So I don't even find myself having to treat people as often or have them come in as often, because I'm just like, all right, well, this is more of a let's calm this down, let's train up this aspect. Here you go. And that just doesn't take long, which could not be happier about. As awkward as it sounds business wise, I really don't. If it doesn't need to take a long time, let's not make it take a long time. Let's just get you better.
Yeah, that was like my question too. Backs and knees are obviously very different. Is there like a typical length of time, like for a knee, maybe like 3 to 6 months or 9 months, or is it always like over a year, or just specifically depending on that person? Does it vary a lot?
It does very much depend on that person. Like between you and Jan's husband, I probably have two wildly different answers. But
Okay.
That's tough to answer. I would say backs take the longest. Knees are just tricky because there are two things that you do every day in life that I can't really stop you from doing: walking and breathing. And if those are in my way, it's kind of a pain in the butt to just all the way take the finger off the scab. So it just kind of depends on what's going, because I know people will do gait analysis, and I'm not disparaging it. I'm sure there's some beneficial aspects of that. But realistically, if I'm telling you that you're doing a weird thing while you're walking, I'd rather know that that's because your ankle's not moving enough, or know that that's because your hip has crappy balance, or rotationally it doesn't do as much, and just control that from my end, because there's just no way realistically that people are going to think about, okay, my right foot's about to go down, I need to make sure that I don't do this thing, and then my left foot, okay, I take a break now, my right foot's back. It just doesn't make any sense to do it that way. So I'm all about efficiency and how I try to help people. So it just depends on where you fall into that model.
Okay, just curious.
Well, it's really
Yeah. So Laura's been seeing you, right? Or has, Tyler?
right. I guess a little bit worse. If I
If Laura's on here, I'll let her answer that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Laura, hit out. Oh, here, Laura, unmute yourself.
I can see her.
Do you know how to do it, Laura? There you go.
Earlier, and then I couldn't get it to pop back up again. Yes, I did. I don't know, half a dozen times for my elbow.
So I figured.
So tell us what was the experience like before we let him talk? You going in not knowing him, like what were your preconceived ideas? How'd it go? What was the experience like? So people kind of get an idea.
Oh, well, we had a phone call to talk about what was hurting and what I was doing, what was hurting, what I was doing when it was hurting. And then when I went in, he checked a bunch of different ways, and it was this elbow. So, is it this way? Is it this way? Is it whatever, which way it was? And then we ended up, I thought it was tennis elbow. What do you call that? Something.
One of them. This is another one of those useless
tennis
diagnoses that I don't understand the need for, but yes, sort of. Mm-hmm.
And when I stopped using it, because he said, let's stop using it. So I told Noah, and Noah had already taken all the arm things out. Actually, when I told Noah that it was hurting, he said, let me know if it gets worse. And I said, no, I think it's worse today. And he said, okay, we're going to stop doing all the arm things. So I had already stopped doing upper body stuff for a couple of months. And when it wasn't better, Noah's like, I think it should be getting better. That's when I went to Tyler. So as I started doing some of the things that he was recommending doing, my neck started hurting. my elbow felt better, but my neck was hurting. So that's when we figured out that it was more
called my retention plan.
Yeah, it's like thing. Yeah. It was a nerve instead of the elbow inflammation. And so I started doing nerve flossing, and I went to Kellen.
You just had me do nerve flossing too, Laura.
Nerve flossing and farmer carries, the things that would, out.
And how is it now?
It is much better. Most days I don't notice it at all. And if I do, it's like not when I'm doing something, but maybe after. And it's just kind of I rub it a little bit, but that's all I do. I don't use a little brace or ibuprofen or anything anymore. But it was waking me up in the night. I couldn't lift the covers up, and I couldn't unplug hair dryer and or pull a piece of grass out of the yard. So
wow. So it's big. So Tyler, like what were the issues and how'd you treat it? Now that we actually have something fixed. I didn't know Laura was going to be here, so this worked out great. So you heard all the philosophical stuff, and now you'll see kind of like how he applied it to Laura.
Well, Lara, you're a sweetheart. I appreciate it. I wouldn't wish elbow pain on my worst enemy. Seriously, it's such a pain in the butt to treat. As Lara found, I mean, it's not always a straight line of success. So I try to tell people to expect more of a bear market, or is it bull market looking, peaks and valleys on the way up. And I don't want to paint the picture that I just make you stop doing all things all the time. But trying to avoid irritating an elbow is just the worst, because it's not like you can completely stop using that hand. And this helps me explain what we did for it. So just to give you guys the nerdy explanation for what goes on in the forearm, if you play around on the top of your forearm, or I guess the squishier part of your forearm, all of the muscles in your forearm that make a fist or flex that wrist go right here on the inside. All the ones that do this and open up your hand go right here on the outside. Now play around on the top of your forearm and notice that you're getting straight down into the bone. There's way less mass on this top side than there is on the other side, combating back and forth. So whenever you have pain up here, it's constantly resisting all of these things anytime you pick something up. So a lot of people with elbow tendonitis, golfers, tennis elbow, whatever it's called, will tell me like, it hurts when I do this, or it hurts when I pick up the coffee mug first thing in the morning, because even though it's not that heavy, it's enough to where you're keeping these muscles countering these muscles. Because think about it, if these muscles weren't on just as much as these, when you go to grab something, your wrist would do this. It doesn't. It balances out in neutral. So conventional wisdom may say, all right, we'll strengthen the top of it. Well, it's kind of hard to do when the top of it hurts a lot every time you use it. So usually nerves get kind of junked up in there. It's pretty tight spaces. So I find that we can start to move those around a little bit. And there's very specific ways that I test for nerves and see, is this contributing, yes or no? And the simple question that I ask people is, all right, a nerve in pain does not want to be stretched. It just doesn't. I know a lot of people are taught to stretch their nerves, but they do not want to be stretched if they're in pain. So I will stretch it in an effort to see, is this causing the pain? And I think, Lara, we may have done that a couple of times. Honestly, off the top of my head, I don't remember if that elicited anything or not. But I think one of them did, and it seemed like it was like, it's at least in the ballpark. So if I can throw something at it to calm it down every chance we get, I mentioned that natural pain position for people with a similar approach for the rest of the body. If I can throw a natural pain position or a slight movement, it's not strengthening, it's not stretching, it's just trying to get that spot more comfortable to where it's not inflamed anymore. And now I can start adding in a little bit of load over time and call it graded exposure. In layman's terms, don't go from 0 to 100 miles an hour. If that tissue is torn, irritated, whatever, it's not going to want to carry a whole lot. So you literally have to start with as little weight as possible and build from there. And I think, Lara, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, it was a fairly straight line with a few bumps along the way, but essentially that was the process. I mean, I think the hardest part was getting it to calm down all the time, because when you showed up, it was pretty irritated. So it took a little bit to find something consistent. Because here's the thing, within an hour, I have enough time to either do my best to make it feel as good as I possibly can or severely piss it off. And usually both of those happen. And when I get it good and pissed off, there's not really a whole lot that's other than just letting it relax and doing the things that we know help. There's not really a whole lot that's going to make it better immediately. So it's not like, well, sorry, tried this expensive time, come back and we'll try again next time. We always want to make sure that there's something to progress on the next time. I mean, you mentioned in your intro to me that I don't like having somebody come in and just do the things that I told them to do over and over again. I hate that. I used to get in so much trouble when I started physical therapy because I was supposed to be writing down all the exercises so the PT tech could come pick up my sheet and read it off and have my patients go through their exercises. That makes no sense to me. But that tends to be more common than not. And Lara is a good example of this. If you're coming in, it's because I want to change something, either for the better or for pulling you back off of something. So I think it was just a little bit of playing around with that. But ultimately we kind of found the key, and then now it's in Noah and Dylan's hands to slowly progress it. It's stronger and stronger. I think eventually she'll get to the point where she's, not even thinking about it anymore. It sounds like you're well on your way, Lara. But the last thing I'll say on this is everybody gets the sense of this when they start with me. This is the beginning of a relationship. If you're not doing well, I expect to hear from you. You have my phone number for a reason. I wouldn't give it out if I didn't want to hear from you. Don't ever come into my clinic and say that you've been hurting so bad for a week. Do not want to hear that. And I'm going to give you a hard time about it.
He's done it to me several times.
Where was that? Where was my text? Like, where was we got to do something about this now. Do you want this to go away, or do you want? So Lara did a great job with that. But yeah, did I yell at you? I'm pretty strict about that though. Cause if you're coming to spend time with me, I want to make sure that it's going in the right direction. And if you're not telling me about something, what are we doing? Cause I only have an hour with you. And I tell this to people that spend 3 hours with me who don't see me again for 2 or 3 months. If you're not telling me what's going on, you're not getting better. If I'm seeing you every week, there's a good chance that even if you're not telling me, you'll still get better. But daggone it, tell me when something's not working, because I know enough about what's going on with you to where I can troubleshoot in the moment. And it's usually as simple as, Kellen, you can probably attest this. It's usually as simple as just exchanging a few texts. Well, how does this feel? I have a million videos that I can send you of things that I've tried out in the past. It's like, all right, watch this video, try this, see how it works, let me know. So it's very realistically that kind of back and forth. I try to make myself as accessible as possible, almost to a detriment. I've started to take weekends where I look at my phone less and less. But yeah, I want to know so that I can get you better quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. And he is good. And we have a different relationship because like I choke him all the time at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and armbar him. So him yelling at me really doesn't scare me that much.
Gave me a giant hickey on my neck the last time. I wrote like a rash, and my wife knows at this point that it's a jiu-jitsu. I'm not running around on her, so she'll see me come. She's like, "What did you do? Could you just like not let them wrap their arm around your neck?" And I was like, "Well, I'm trying."
He tries hard.
I'm trying really hard. I'm not very good at it. So
not yet.
I get less bruises the better I get, the more often I go.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Angela, did you have any questions or whatnot? Any aches, pains, or friends who have aches or pains?
No, I'm good. My injury, I have the same thing, knee stuff, but mine is an injury. Yeah, and my doctor just kind of told me I just have to strengthen my my thigh so that my knee has less pain, and I do realize it is true. The more exercise I do on my thigh, I have less pain on my knee. But mine again, it was an injury that I have, so I had like metal in my knee and stuff like that. So it's not like just regular pains because of of getting older or whatever it may be. It's just injury. So like I said, I'm doing a lot better. After a few surgeries and everything, I'm doing a lot better. So the more I work that thigh, I do feel less pain on my knee when I walk and I do certain things.
Huh? How'd you originally hurt it?
In the ocean, the waves were like really bad, and my son ran right into me, so my knee went the opposite way. So I have a plate and 7 screws in there. But the doctor kind of said to me, because I actually went to the doctor on Friday because some of the exercises that Chase was giving me was bothering me. I don't know the exact verbiage. I just know that one was in and one was out. Right. So he was telling me that the ones that are out are the ones that are not on the floor, that my feet are actually like up in the air. Like the leg curls, laying flat on my stomach, or even like the one laying on my back and then curling the ball towards me and pulling myself up. Those hurt a lot versus doing the squats, doing, stepping on the box or things like that. That doesn't bother me.
So like quad dominant movement sounds like it doesn't bug you, but if you have to use like a hip hinge movement or the back of your legs, it bugs your knee. Is that
it hurts?
fair?
It hurts like the side of my knee, like I guess where the screws are like kind of coming out. So it kind of not the actual knee, but like where the screws are. It hurts when
Is that on the inside of your knee or on the outside of your knee?
Well, the plate is on the outside and the screws come across.
Huh.
So they come across, so it comes into the inner knee as well. So, and like I said, I asked him because I went because I was kind of like, listen, I already had 3 surgeries on this knee. I don't want any more. So I was like, I'm doing exercises. I'm doing things okay. And he kind of said, just stay away from, I forget the exact verbiage. I know it had out in it, out something, out, whatever medical term it was. And he kind of explained to me it was just keeping my feet on something hard surface, a hard surface or whatever, it won't bother me. And it's true because actually I even lay out flat, and if I put my feet on the wall and lift up, it doesn't bother me. But getting on the ball and pulling up.
So essentially when you're on unstable even surface, when you have to create more stability, it bugs it.
It hurts a lot, correct. Like the bench curl, not bench curl, the leg curl that's on my stomach and pulling the weight up to towards my butt. That hurts. After a few reps, it hurts a lot. So, and I was like, it's just I'm weak, or I was just thinking in the beginning, but then it just kept hurting me. I was like, let me just kind of check in with my doctor. And he kind of was like, yeah, let's kind of just stay away from that right now until I do an MRI just to make sure things are legit. But he's like, just keep to like the squats and the box jumping or the box stepping up. And
does when you do box jumps, does it hurt it?
no, I don't jump. I kind of step up. I can't do jumping.
Gotcha.
Like if I run, I can't really run. I run, a little bit with a limp if I do running. So I can't like run because the knee's not strong.
Yeah. Typically, okay, Tyler, chime in here. But typically, running, if you have knee issues, is not a great idea.
Correct.
Yeah, at least that, okay, anecdotally, for what that's worth. I've helped a lot of people who have like hurt knees and whatnot, and they obviously want to get the cardio in because they think it's going to expedite the fat loss, yada yada. Really, and a side note, your nutrition is going to be way more important than the cardio you do, Angela. That being said, Tyler, what are your thoughts on like?
I don't do the running though. Like if I were to decide running, but I do actually the elliptical. I was told the elliptical is a lot better on my knee versus on the tread.
Yeah, it is better. I mean, it is.
Yeah,
it is better. I don't know, Tyler. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, low impact is good. The quads and the hamstrings are very good knee stabilizers. The actually primary mechanism is not necessarily to bend the knee. Your most, and I learned this from Stuart McGill, actually, the strongest knee extensor in your body are your glutes. If you start thinking about the body in that fashion, it'll kind of broaden your mind, so to speak, with what's at play here, because the glutes don't connect directly into the knee, but that doesn't mean that they don't create knee extension. It doesn't mean they don't create straightening of the knee. A lot of people that come to see me with knee issues, you hear the phrase strengthen the glutes. That's not necessarily what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get your body to recognize the glutes as a more primary means of
fire.
Yeah, I worded that weird. Basically, if you were to take a bike out and go in first gear and ride really hard and then go to 21st gear, you feel how much harder your thigh muscles are working. That's what I'm trying to get your glutes to do in a short amount of time. And then you get that carryover from it. There's all kinds of awesome neurology that goes on. But yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Sounds like she's on the right path. So I don't want to get in your head too much about it.
Yeah, I've been through everything that everybody mentioned, the shots and all that other good stuff and surgeries to clean out, because once it was repair, the first one was repairing the broken bone and everything. And the second one was the meniscus repair, because they obviously didn't catch it the first time, and the ACL kind of things. My knee was buckling. And then the third time they went in to clean up some of the arthritis. And since then, that was 2019. I'm knock on wood. That was my last surgery, and I'm feeling a lot better. I have my good and bad days, of course. It depends, but it's not nowhere near those first few years, because it happened in 2015. The first few years, I was like, please amputate my leg. That's how bad the pain was.
Yeah. Well, it's good that you're exercising and you feel that confidence again to move it, because that's really what's important for you if you've been in pain for that long. And as a side note, I used to say if I had a nickel for every time I've heard the story, but I have a nickel, more than a nickel for every time I hear the story. Rest assured, there's a lot of people that get hurt in the ocean. I swear,
that day, 2 people got hurt with the same thing.
Yeah, same thing. That happens so much. I never realized how dangerous the ocean was for people's knees, but it's torn ACLs, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Well, all righty, guys. So the time is up for this week. That being said, all right, Tyler's information is right here in the chat. So copy and paste it or take a screenshot of it, and you can contact him directly to chat or to set up a time for him to do a free assessment. And if for some reason you don't get it down or whatnot, Noah or myself both have it. So you can contact us and we can share it. But Tyler's the man, and Lara can testify to it. I can testify to it. My dad's at work, or he could testify to it. But I just want to thank you for coming on, Tyler. And dropping some knowledge bombs. We will definitely be having you back. Last
Thanks,
words, Tyler?
Oh, I really appreciate this. This is fun. I like to talk. So this is fun for me. I enjoy these conversations. Anything that I can do to spread the word and help people out, I'm always happy to do. And big thank you to you, Kellen. I don't say it enough. I love you and your team. You guys do so much for me. I appreciate all the easy cases that you send my way so that I can make you guys look like geniuses and vice versa.
Yes.
Keep trading.
Yes,
Yeah, in all seriousness, I know I've already said this today, but the people that come out of Just You Fitness are the quickest to get back in action out of anybody, including, I don't know if your dad works out in Just You Fitness, but him being at work is a testament to his success with this stuff. It's incredible what you guys are doing over there. So always a pleasure.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, my man. All right, guys, thank you so much. Questions, comments, or concerns, you can hit me or Noah up or Dylan for that matter, and we'll see you next week. And so anyway, next week, just FYI, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about cardio, okay? So what are the fundamentals of cardio for weight loss? What are the best forms of cardio? Pretty much we're going to do a master course on all things cardio. And if Tyler isn't busy, I might even bug him and have him come in, and it's just so that I have someone else to talk to besides Noah. But anyway, so FYI, cardio. So if you have any questions on what type of cardio, whether it's high intensity interval cardio or steady state, whether it's fasted cardio in the morning, you name it, we're going to talk about it. So if you have questions, bring them. If not, Noah and I are going to do a mastery course on cardio and weight loss. All right. All right. Go be awesome, guys. Ciao.